Good morning, class 9 students. I welcome you all on this online platform provided by Jagriti Classes. We were doing chapter 9th of class 9, that is force and laws of motion. So now we'll be continuing with that same chapter, force and laws of motion. In this series, we have discussed what do you understand by the term force. Then we have seen you have two different kinds of force with you. The first one is balanced force and the next is unbalanced force. So balanced and unbalanced are the two categories of forces. Then I gave you a comparative account between balanced and unbalanced forces, and then we discussed the first law of motion, that is given by Newton. So it is also called Newton's first law, or it is also known as law of inertia. So before discussing this law, we discussed what do you mean by the term inertia and what are the three different types of inertia, that is inertia of motion, inertia of rest and inertia of direction. Then we saw what is the relation between inertia and mass of any object. We said that heavier is the object, more is its inertia. So till this we have discussed. Then in the last class we have discussed the second law of motion, and I told you we'll be doing some examples related to second law. In second law we have discussed its statement that and a new parameter introduced in second law, that was momentum. So Newton's second law of motion, it is proposed by Newton, and in this he proposed the magnitude of force, or he gave a way to calculate the force in whatever condition you need to calculate. So if you are asked, you can write the statement of second law, then you can write that what was the statement. If we revise, rate of change of momentum was directly proportional to the applied external force. Okay, so this all we have done. I told you as per the statement you can derive the formula for force. So second law gives you the magnitude of force, and in the second law a new physical parameter is being introduced. It is called momentum. Momentum was the product of mass and velocity, and this rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force. When we derived the formula, then we got F equals to, here F was equals to kma. This k was the proportionality constant here, that is when we remove the proportionality sign, then we require to put a constant which is k here. And we also saw what do you mean by 1 unit of force. So when we define 1 unit of force, the value of this k also becomes 1, and then the final equation which we get for force is ma. So till here we have discussed in our last class that the magnitude of force, if you are required to calculate force, then it is mass into acceleration. Okay, mass multiplied by acceleration of the object, this product gives you the amount of force here. And we discussed the SI unit of force, it would be what, kg meter per second square, and this unit is also known as Newton. So you have to remember the SI units, or the units of every physical quantity you have, because in numericals after solving, whenever you get an answer, if you write only the numerical answer and you do not put the unit, then this would deduct your marks. Okay, so never forget to write the unit, and please write the correct units. So the unit of force here is Newton, or you can say kg meter per second square. Now let's revise. See, this is an image in front of you and it is showing you Newton's first law of motion. If we revise, what do you mean by first law? Then Newton's first law was, if any object is at rest, it tends to remain at rest, and if any object is in motion, it tends to remain in motion. Until what? Until an external unbalanced force is applied. So see, this is your object, a football here, and this object was initially at rest. So this object has an inertia. Inertia is the natural tendency present in all the objects. If the object is rest or in rest state, then it tends to remain in the rest state. So this is the object which is in rest, and it will remain at rest until and unless it is acted by an external unbalanced force. So see, when any boy or a girl is kicking the football, when the person kicks the football, then because this person is applying an unbalanced external force, So the football's inertia changes and now the football is brought in motion. So now this object will continue in motion with the constant speed and direction. Now when the object has changed its state from the state of rest to the state of motion because of the application of an unbalanced force, now this object has the inertia of motion. Initially, this object was having an inertia of rest. Now the inertia of rest of this object changed to the inertia of motion due to the application of this unbalanced force. Now this object has inertia of motion and inertia of direction in fact as well. So you can say that this object will continue with the constant speed with which it is moving and in the same direction where it is being projected or where it is being moved. So this object has inertia of motion as well as inertia of direction. But it will move in that particular direction till what time? So we say unless it is acted on again by an external, you can also add a word, external unbalanced force. So if this object is being acted upon by an external unbalanced force, that is the net, okay, the goal. So this goal, what it does is, this goal stops the ball, okay. So we say here now the inertia of motion of this ball again gets converted to the inertia of rest, or simply you can say that the ball which was originally at rest, after application of force, it changed its position of rest to the state of motion, and now when it reaches the goal again, then the inertia of rest or its motion state again changes to the resting state. So this was a revision for first law of motion. Now we have discussed the formulation or the formula of second law of motion, the complete derivation in the last class, and we were on this example. This is again an example from your NCERT CBSE textbooks. A fielder is given which is trying to catch a ball which is coming towards him. A fielder, it is written that a fielder pulls his hands gradually with the moving ball while holding a catch. I hope you all have played cricket and you will be playing, of course. So whenever a fielder tries to catch a ball, then he gradually moves his hand backwards. And why so? What is the reason for this kind of motion, for moving the hand backwards while catching the ball? The reason here is momentum. So the answer to all the questions, we discussed many questions in the last class which were based on the first law of motion, that is on the inertia. Now we are discussing some examples and then we'll discuss the related questions. So the answer for this is why the fielder is pulling his hands gradually back when he tries to catch this ball. The answer is momentum. Momentum is what you know. Momentum is a physical quantity which is denoted by the alphabet P. And here momentum is product of mass and velocity. So we know that mass of this cricket ball is not much large. So we say that mass here is small, but the velocity with which the ball is coming towards this fielder is very high. We have one factor to be smaller in magnitude, but the velocity is very high. And in turn, because the velocity of the ball is high, you say that momentum of the ball will also be high. Momentum of this ball will also be higher. So because the momentum has a higher value, if the fielder does not move his hand back and keeps his hand in the similar position, then this ball, which has a very high momentum due to higher velocity, this ball will put a great impact on the hands of the fielder and he might get hurt. So to prevent the injuries, what the fielder do is the fielder moves his hand backward, and while doing this, the fielder gives the ball some time to decrease its velocity from a higher value to 0. And because the velocity of the ball gets the time to get reduced to a minimum value or to a 0 value, in turn this condition is decreasing the velocity of the ball, the velocity of the ball decreases, and as the velocity of the ball will decrease, in turn the momentum will also reduce down, and this velocity decrease will decrease the momentum, that is momentum P also decreases, and because momentum decreases, the impact of the ball during catching would also reduce. So the player would not get any kind of injury. And certain similar examples are given more in your CBSE and NCERT textbooks. Now we'll be discussing the third law of motion, and then we'll be moving on to the questions related to all the laws. And in these questions, you will see that we are also utilizing the equations of motion which you studied in the last chapter, that is chapter 8. So in this chapter, you will get two kinds of question. One would be conceptual questions or the reasoning questions, which would be answered by using the laws of motion which we have studied, and we'll be studying the third law. But some of the numerical questions which you will be getting, to solve those kind of numericals, you have to utilize or you have to use the equations of motion which we did in the last chapter. So before moving on to the numericals, let's start with the third law of motion. This law is again known as Newton's third law of motion, and this is quite simple. If we write the statement to this law, then the third law states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so this is the simplest statement for third law of motion or Newton's third law. It states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Now to understand the statement, or you can have many conclusions from the statement itself. The first conclusion which you can draw is, it is saying that force always exists in pairs. That is, in every situation, in every condition, you have two forces present with you. So we can write that force is always present in the form of pair. Okay, this means every condition has two types of forces. Pair means you have two forces involved in every condition or every situation. Now the next conclusion which you can draw is, as you have a pair of force, which means you have two forces present in each condition, you can say that one force is named as action force, and the next force, the other pair or the other component in the pair, the other force is called the reaction force. Now it would be clear from the name itself, action force is what? Let's suppose you are applying a force on a wall and you are trying to push the wall. Then that wall will also apply same amount of force, or you can say same magnitude of force towards your hand or towards yourself. So we say that this action force means the force which is being applied, and reaction is what? Whenever you apply any force on the object, your application of that force is called action force. Okay, but the object itself also applies you back a force, and that application of force is called reaction force. So this reaction force is being applied as a result of the action force. If there would be no action force, then definitely there would be no kind of reaction. For explaining it with an example, let's suppose you have a very heavy brick wall or a very high brick wall. Okay, this is the ground, and now a person is trying to push the wall. So the person A, let's suppose this is the person A, and let me name the wall to be B. So this is a wall made up of bricks. Okay, Now this person named A is trying to push the wall. So this person is applying an action force. So we will write, in this direction you have a force being applied. This is applied by the object A on the object B. Here FAB means F stands for force. So the force is applied by, whatever you have the first subscript here, force is applied by A on which the next subscript, that is B. Here A is the person and B is the wall. So FAB means the force applied by, this tells you the force is applied by what? So the force is applied by A, and this next subscript letter tells you the force is applied on what? So you can remember, in this way we write the forces. That is, if I am writing FAB, it means the force is applied by A on B. So this is in fact clear. The force is applied by the person A on the wall B. And if I tell you, what do you mean by FBA? Then FBA would be simply what? Correct? FBA would be force applied by B on person A. And what would be the direction of FBA? This force is the force applied by B on A. Because the first tells you who is the doer of this force, who is the doer of this action, and the next letter tells you on which the action is being performed or on which the force is being applied. So this first you can also call it to be the doer of the force, and this would be the receiver of the force. Okay? We can also name this B as the doer, or who is the applicator of the force, and this A is the receiver of the force. Okay? So now we have FBA, the other kind of force, and this FBA would be applied by what? This kind of force FBA is applied in this direction because the force is applied by B on the object A. So the direction would be FBA. Now you see that both the forces, they are equal in magnitude. Okay? So these kind of forces which we discuss in the third law, you can also call them to be balanced forces, because as you can see, if you remember the concept of balanced forces are the forces which are equal in magnitude. Magnitude means the amount, and they are opposite in direction. So here you have again a pair of forces, that is two forces, FAB and FBA. You can see one is applied in the right direction, but next is applied in the left direction. That is, they are opposite in direction, but because the wall is not moving, it suggests that these forces are equal in magnitude, and because they are equal in magnitude, the net force becomes zero. Net force means, if I tell you what is the net force, then you will say net force is FAB minus the force FBA. And because these both the forces are equal in magnitude, the net force here becomes 0. So the net force is 0. This means actually both the forces cancel each other. No kind of force is being applied, so the wall does not move. To move this wall, you have to apply a larger amount of force, but in fact you will not be able to move the wall practically. It would break off. But for breaking a wall also you require much strength. Okay? So here is it. This was the explanation with an example to depict the third law of motion. Third law, the statement was every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and both these forces, one more important statement is both action and reaction, both the action and reaction forces work on or are applied on. Both the forces are applied on different objects. Okay, so this is again an important statement that both the forces, you have two types of forces, but both these forces are being applied on different objects. You can see in the example which we discussed, the first force, which is this one, would be the action force, and the next, this one is your reaction force. So you can see in the example, this action force is applied on the object B, while the reaction force is applied on the person A. So when the person is applying a force in this direction, the wall is again applying the force on the person. These forces are equal in magnitude, opposite in direction. That is, you can say in short, these are a kind of balanced forces. And then the next important point is these are applied on different objects. So this was everything you need to know about the third law of motion. And to represent third law mathematically, if you want to mathematically represent the third law, then mathematically you would say that action force, okay, just I'll write it directly now. The action force is FAB, and this force is equal in magnitude with the reaction force. So I'm writing this action is equal to the reaction, but then we have written these are applied in opposite directions. So in maths, how do we represent directions whenever you write an equation? Direction is, if you take any of the direction to be positive, then the opposite direction would be assumed as negative. So if I say that this direction of application is positive, it means FAB would be what? Positive. But if FAB is positive, then FBA would give you a negative value. So we put a negative sign here, and this negative sign denotes that both the forces are opposite in direction. Both forces are opposite in direction. And this sign denotes that both the forces are equal in magnitude. So please do not get confused whenever you find a negative sign in the equation. Here the negative sign is depicting or showing that both the forces are definitely equal in magnitude, but they are opposite in the direction, and both the forces are applied on different objects. So this was your third law of motion. Now we'll be moving to the questions, and these are the questions given at the end of the chapter. That is, these are the questions from exercises. And I have selected some of the questions so that the numerical skills, you also develop some numerical skills. You have now read about the theoretical chapter motion. We have done everything with that. We have also done some examples and questions too there. But now we'll be solving the exercises questions. So this is the exercise chapter 9, force and laws of motion. And you have in front of you question number 4. Now, it says that a batsman hits a cricket ball which then rolls on a level ground. After covering a short distance, the ball comes to rest. The ball slows to a stop because. So in short, it is being asked that a batsman is throwing a ball. After covering some distance, the ball is stopping. What is the reason behind this? Please read the options and do answer me. First one is the batsman did not hit the ball hard enough. Because the batsman didn't hit very hard shot, so it is stopping. Is this the reason? The next one is velocity is proportional to the force exerted on the ball. And we have read it nowhere that velocity is proportional to the force. Then the third states that there is a force on the ball opposing the motion and thereby the ball is being stopped. The fourth one is there is no unbalanced force, so the ball would want to come to rest. Can you identify the correct option? The correct option here is option C. The ball, after covering a certain distance, comes to rest. That is, initially the velocity of ball was v. Now the velocity of ball becomes 0. Why so? Because there is a force which is opposing the motion of the ball. Just now we have done with the third law of motion. I told you, never in any situation a single force works. This ball would probably be moving on the ground, okay? And because this ball is moving on the ground, this is in contact with the floor or with the ground. Not floor, because cricket would be played in a field. So this ball, because it is in direct contact with the ground, it is experiencing a contact force which is known as frictional force. And due to the friction, this ball will eventually come to rest. So the correct option is option C. Now let's read the next question. The next is, a truck starts from rest and then rolls down a hill with a constant acceleration. Okay, so we'll write how to solve this question. We'll be writing all the given points. So we are doing the solution to question number 5. And the given points now we are writing. The first point is, a truck starts from rest. A truck is starting from rest. It means the initial velocity of the truck would be 0. So you are given initial velocity is depicted by the symbol small u. So u equals to 0 meter per second here. Now we are saying, and the truck is rolling down a hill with a constant acceleration. That is the value of acceleration. Let's suppose this is a hill and the truck, firstly the initial velocity of the truck was 0, and this truck is going down to the hill with a constant acceleration a. Constant means the value of acceleration from the top of the hill, whenever it is coming down, it remains same. So you have constant acceleration a, but you are not given the magnitude or the value of acceleration. So you have to find this acceleration a. It travels a distance of 400 meter. Distance is depicted by the symbol small s, so s equals to 400 meters. And then you are given in 20 seconds. 20 seconds is your time. Now you have to find the force acting on. So you have to find the force if the mass of the given truck is 7 tons. And here a hint is also given, that is the conversion factor. 1 ton is equal to 1000 kg. So 7 tons would be equal to 7 into 1000, that is 7000 kg. So you are even given the mass to be 7000 kg. See, we have been given all the quantities in their SI units. This was not given in SI units, but we converted ton into kg by multiplying with the factor 1000. So these are the things which you are being given, and you have been asked about force, okay? So now you have to find what? You are directly given that you have to find the force. But you know, for finding the force, what formula would you use? If we draw the solution out now, then for finding the force, you have from the second law of motion, force is equal to mass into acceleration. Because we need to find force, you need to have mass and acceleration with you. You have the value of mass, but you do not have acceleration. So because for finding the force, you require acceleration, firstly, we have to find acceleration. So for finding the acceleration, I told you in these numericals you have to use the 3 equations of motion. What were the 3 equations of motion? See, the first one was v equals to u plus at, that is your velocity time relation. The next was s equals to ut plus half at square. And the third equation of motion was v square minus u square gives you a value of 2as. So you have these 3 equations of motion, and by this time you should also learn the 3 equations. Now, how to judge which equation we'll use? I told you this concept in your previous classes also. We have been given certain things, and then we have to find the value of acceleration. So whatever equation has every component given except this acceleration, we are going to use that equation. So if you see the first equation, you have the values of u, s and t. So for the first equation, you have t, u, but you do not have the value of v and you do not have a. But from a single equation, you can find only one unknown variable. So hence we cannot use the first equation because we do not have v, that is final velocity of the truck. Then you have s equals to ut plus half at square. See here, you have the value of s, you have initial velocity, then you are being given with time. So you have to find acceleration. So here we'll be using the second equation of motion. But can you use the third one? V square minus u square gives you 2as. Can you use this equation? Definitely not. Because again you have an unknown parameter v, and because in a single equation you have two unknown parameters v and a. So this equation again cannot be applied to the question. Hence to find the acceleration we'll be using the second equation. So now we'll be writing so solving our question, we have from second equation of motion S equals to ut plus half a t square. This is your second equation of motion. Now you have to find a, substitute all the given values. So S here is 400, then u here is 0. So whenever you will multiply 0 with the given time 20, then the answer would come out to be 0. Then you have half into a you have to find, and t is 20 seconds. So 20 square. Now let's solve this. You have 400, 0 into 20 gives you a value of 0. Then you have half into a into 20 square. 20 square is what? 20 multiplied by 20. So this gives you a value of 400. So now you have 400. Okay. Now see, next is what? When you solve this out, you will be getting a. Now to find a, what can we do? For getting a, we'll transpose all these known values to the left hand side of the equation. This 400 is being multiplied with our unknown variable. So when we transpose this 400, it would get divided, and then when you shift this 2, it would get multiplied. So a here would be 400 multiplied by 2 divided by 400. And the answer comes out to be 2 meter per second square. Because we have all the quantities in SI unit, then the answer would also contain the SI unit of acceleration. So now we have found out the acceleration, and you were required to find the force. So how to find the force? Force is, you know, mass into acceleration, that is ma. Now you have mass to be 7000 kgs and you have your acceleration to be 2. So the final answer would be 14,000 and the SI unit of force, which is Newton here. Or either you can put kg meter per second square, or you can use the unit Newton. So this was a solution for your question. I hope you understood the solution. It is the value of force which came out to be 14,000 newtons. Now we'll be moving with the next question. You have to use the same equations of motion. I told you for theoretical questions you will be using the concepts, that is the laws of motion. But for solving numericals, either from the chapter motion or from chapter 9, force and laws of motions, you will need to remember all the equations of motion, and then you will need to identify which equation of motion should you use. How to identify? I have told you that from every equation you should have all the quantities given. Then you can find a single unknown quantity. So this completes your question. Now we'll be moving to the next. The next is question number 6 given in your books. A stone of 1 kg is thrown with a velocity of 20 meter per second. So let's write the given parts. The given is mass of the stone is 1 kg. Then you have it is thrown with a velocity of 20 meter per second. So this would be your initial velocity 20 meter per second. Okay, on the frozen surface of the lake, and it comes to rest. This line is again important. The stone which was initially thrown with 20 meter per second, it comes to rest. It means the final velocity of the stone becomes 0. So you have the final velocity of the stone to be 0 meters. And after traveling a distance of 50 meters, that means distance given is 50 meter. Now you have to find what is the force of friction between the stone and ice. We discussed question number 4 previously now. So it was given why anything stops. After traveling some distance, every object stops because it is having or it is experiencing the force of friction. And this friction is often known as the required evil or the necessary evil. Why? Because this friction is very important. Friction helps us to walk. I am able to hold the pen to write on this board due to friction. Okay? Whenever we will be discussing friction in detail, we will be seeing the concepts. So here, you have to find the force of friction. And friction is also a kind of force. So the formula remains the same. That is, from the second law, you have to find the friction, you have the formula F equals to ma, because friction is also a kind of force. Now you have the value of mass, and similarly you have to find the value of acceleration in order to find the magnitude of force. So how to find the values of acceleration? If you know the equations of motion, do tell me which equation we will be using now to find the magnitude of acceleration. See, you have been given with v, u, m and s, and you are required to find acceleration. If you carefully study the equations, you will see that the first equation and the second equation of motion, v equals to u plus at, s equals to ut plus half at square, both these equations involve a variable time, t. But here you do not have any time given. That means you cannot use the first and second equation because it has unknown variable acceleration, but with that it will also have an unknown variable of time. And from a single equation, I am repeating it, you cannot find the value of two variables from one given equation. So we are left with only a third equation here. So for the solution, what we will be using is, by using the third equation of motion, which is v square minus u square gives you the value of 2as. So we will be using this. I hope you understood how do we select the equation which we can use. Now substituting the values, v is 0, then you have 20 meter per second square, then it is given 2 into a you have to find, and the distance is given of 50 meters. Now solving this, you will be getting 0 square is 0, so 0 minus 20 square is 400, which becomes 50 multiplied by 2 gives you 100a. Okay? This is a simple calculation. 0 minus 400 would give you a value of minus 400, and to find the value of a, we will be transposing this 100. It is being multiplied with a. So whenever a thing is being multiplied and when you transpose it to the other side of equals to, then it gets divided. So this gives you a value of a, and when you check, you get a equals to minus 4. So a here is minus 4 meter per second square. Now why do we have, what does this minus sign signifies? This negative sign denotes that the acceleration is actually not accelerating the object, it is not increasing the speed, but the negative acceleration, when we discussed in the chapter motion, it is called retardation. Retardation, you can also call it to be deceleration. And if you now read the question, it is given that the stone which was moving with the velocity of 20, it comes to rest. It means its velocity decreased, and such factor is which decreases or reduces the velocity of object, it is known as retardation or negative acceleration. So now you have to find the force, and you can easily do this. Force is mass into acceleration. Mass here is 1 kg and acceleration is minus 4. So the force, which is your friction force, okay, we are finding the value of friction, it would be minus 4 Newton. So this gives you the value of force, that is friction force. And here what does the sign minus signify? Here it is signifying that it is deceleration or retardation. Here minus sign signifies that friction force acts in opposite direction to the motion. That is, if the motion of the object is in right direction, then the friction would be acting in the opposite direction. So here minus sign signifies that friction force acts in a opposite direction. Now see, you have one more question here, that is 7th question, and please do try this question at your homes, okay? And if you are not able to solve, you can contact us. But using the same concepts, that is using the equations of motion. I hope you will be easily able to do this. And then you should try to solve the 14 question also which is given. So in the next class we will be dealing with the very important law, which is law of conservation of momentum, and then we will seeing some concepts or some numerical problems related to momentum. But do solve these two questions, okay, which are unsolved now. I hope you will be easily able to do both these questions. So thank you for joining today's class. I hope you are learning very well with us. So stay home, stay safe. Thank you.